Welcome to the Time Archive. Close your eyes and picture a world where June has arrived, yet summer refuses to appear. The fields, which should shimmer in vibrant greens, lie stiff and frozen beneath a cruel frost. Snow drifts lazily across the landscape, where flowers ought to sway in the gentle breeze. The air bites with a sharpness usually reserved for the depths of December, and every breath feels like a reminder of the cold that has overstayed its welcome. Hunger lingers in the shadows, a silent companion in every home, whispering that the land no longer provides. Cattle huddle in the barns, their warm breath forming small clouds in the frigid air, while children press tightly against cold hearths, shivering beneath thin blankets. Their eyes, wide and uncertain, watch the frost crawl across the window panes. In the streets and alleys, people whisper to one another with quiet urgency, their voices tinged with fear and disbelief. A single question weaves its way through every village, every town, every home. What has stolen the summer from the earth? The sky above is pale, almost reluctant to show its light. Clouds hang heavy and grey, casting shadows over snow-dusted fields. Rivers that should sparkle with melted spring waters remain sluggish, almost black under the muted sun. The wind carries a chill that seems to seep into bone and thought alike, reminding all who feel it that this is no ordinary season, no ordinary year. In the heart of New England, farmers rise each morning with a weary determination, only to find their hopes dashed by frost-kissed soil. Seeds, carefully planted in the expectation of warmth and sunlight, lie dormant or shriveled. Apple trees, once full of promise, stand as skeletons in the fields, their branches brittle and broken under the weight of ice. Livestock struggle to find forage beneath the frozen ground, and the specter of hunger haunts every homestead. Across the Atlantic, similar stories unfold. In Switzerland, villagers watch as snowflakes drift lazily down in July, dusting rye fields and pastures that should be full of life. Italy, normally warm and vibrant at this time of year, sees the sun rise pale and weak, its rays filtered through an unnatural haze that turns daylight into a strange, muted copper. Across Europe, newspapers are filled with speculation and fear. Comets, celestial omens, and divine wrath are all blamed, yet the truth remains hidden, distant, and unknowable to those who live beneath the cold skies. Children ask questions their parents cannot answer. Mothers and fathers exchange worried glances, their eyes reflecting a shared anxiety that words cannot soothe. The world feels out of balance, as though the very heartbeat of the earth has faltered. People move cautiously, stepping lightly over frost-hardened fields, fearful of the fragility that lies beneath their feet. Markets, once bustling with trade and hope, are quiet, the promise of abundance replaced by scarcity and uncertainty. In homes, families gather around meager fires, trying to preserve warmth and hope alike. The smell of damp wood, the hiss of melting ice, the soft murmur of fearful conversation all combine into a tapestry of survival under extraordinary circumstances. Parents whisper reassurances to children, though their own voices tremble with doubt. The simple joys of summer, the laughter of children in sun-warmed fields, the scent of blooming flowers, the taste of fresh fruit, are absent, leaving a hollow, aching void. Everywhere, the question repeats itself, a quiet chorus of anxiety and wonder. Where has summer gone? Why has the earth turned against its own rhythms? People look to the skies, seeking answers in clouds and light, yet find only more questions. And so, with a mixture of fear and curiosity, they wait, hoping that warmth will return, hoping that life will resume its familiar patterns. And today, we join them, traveling back to a year when the natural order was upended, when light and warmth were stolen from the world, and humanity faced one of its greatest mysteries. 1816, the year without a summer. Spring should have arrived, rivers should have thawed, flowing freely with the promise of life and renewal. Fields should have burst into green, a canvas for crops and wildflowers alike. But the thaw never came. Instead, the land remained locked in a grip of frost, as though the season itself had forgotten its duties. The sun rose, pale and hesitant, barely reaching across the cold, rigid earth. Across New England, farmers rose at dawn, hearts heavy with hope and dread. Each morning they stepped onto frozen soil, their boots crunching against the ice-coated ground. They prayed silently for warmth, for the mercy of the sun, for the seasons to return to their proper rhythm. But the soil remained unyielding, hard as stone beneath their hands. Corn sprouted feebly, only to shrivel. Apple trees, once symbols of abundance, blackened under the cruel weight of frost, their blossoms and fruit destroyed before they had a chance to mature. Livestock huddled in barns, shivering through a cold that seemed to seep into bone and marrow. Families wrapped themselves in every available layer of cloth, but warmth was fleeting, as if the very air conspired against them. The phenomenon was not confined to New England. Across the Atlantic, the Alps of Switzerland were dusted with snow in July. Fields of rye, bending under their own weight in a normal summer, now lay blanketed in icy white. Villagers wandered through the cold, bewildered by the sight of a season that should have brought warmth, now stolen by some unseen hand. In Italy, the sun struggled to break through a pale haze, turning the daylight copper and muted. The warmth that should have bathed vineyards and olive groves never arrived. Farmers, laborers, and townsfolk alike squinted at the sky, searching for answers in the dim light, but found only more questions. Newspapers and pamphlets chronicled the strangeness. Reports spread of frost biting through gardens, of fields failing, and rivers freezing in unusual patterns. Some citizens blamed celestial omens. A comet seen months earlier, they claimed, had disrupted the natural order. Others feared divine wrath, interpreting the abnormal weather as a punishment for humanity's sins. Religious leaders preached sermons on repentance, while scholars and physicians attempted to provide scientific explanations, though none could account for the vast, relentless chill. Children too young to understand the politics or science of such events asked simple questions with wide, worried eyes. "Where has summer gone?" they would ask, clinging to mother's skirts or father's hands. Parents offered tentative reassurances, their own voices trembling, but even their explanations rang hollow against the stark reality outside the window. The frost, the snow, the pallid sun all defied understanding. Rivers, which should have carried life through towns and villages, remained sluggish and dark. Water, that should sparkle with spring's reflection, moved like liquid stone, blocked in its courses by ice and debris. The wind swept across frozen fields, carrying the bitter scent of soil that refused to thaw. Farmers' hands, raw and cracked from labor, left prints in frost-hardened earth that would soon vanish under another layer of ice or snow. Markets that normally hummed with activity and trade now seemed abandoned, stalls empty or filled only with meager offerings. Grain was scarce. Vegetables, if available, were wilted and frostbitten. Livelihoods teetered on the edge of collapse. Villagers whispered of shortages, of families fleeing to other towns, of neighbors secretly hoarding what little food they could find. The chill brought more than cold. It brought fear, uncertainty, and the creeping shadow of hunger. Yet through this bleak landscape, humanity persevered. Families adapted as best they could. They burned more firewood, layered clothing, and rationed food with painstaking care. Farmers experimented with planting at different times, trying desperately to coax growth from uncooperative soil. Though the frost destroyed much, determination and hope lingered stubbornly, like sparks against a dark sky. And all the while, no one yet knew the true cause of this extraordinary year. Half a world away, deep in the restless heart of the earth, a volcano had awakened. Its fury would soon send ash and gases soaring into the stratosphere, and the consequences of that eruption would ripple across the globe. The cold, the snow in July, the frost in fields across continents, all were the prelude to a story far larger than any single farm, village, or nation. People continued to wait, eyes turned skyward, hearts bracing for the unknown. What had stolen summer from the earth? The answer would not be found in prayer, in speculation, or in earthly observation. It would come from a force invisible, immense, and unstoppable, a force that would reshape not only the year, but the very understanding of the world itself. Listen closely to the voices of those living through this strange, relentless year. Their stories are etched not in newspapers or scholarly texts, but in the rhythm of daily survival, in the quiet despair and stubborn hope of ordinary people.